Good Thursday afternoon, everyone. It's David Schlotthauer here from the Home Weather Office for December the 7th, 2023. In today's detailed U.S. weather forecast, we are keeping an eye on a couple of storms, especially the one for the eastern half of the U.S. That one is likely to produce severe weather by early next week. Maybe some tornadoes, strong winds, and heavy rainfall are anticipated with that. And then, of course, there's going to be snow potentially for the Northeast. But that's not all we're going to be talking about. We're talking about some of the warmest temperatures ever on record for this early in December, especially for Canada and the northern tier of the United States. Looking at the latest 12Z ECMWF, or known as your Euro model or Euro Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting, this is the more accurate model versus the GFS that is just kind of playing games with us a little bit. And so we're going to continue to use the Euro model in my future videos as long as the GFS is not on board with much versus other models. So looking at this for December the 7th, right around, say, 6 p.m. if you're in the Central Time Zone, 7 o'clock if you're in Eastern Time Zone. Looking pretty good overall for today. There's not much to talk about here in the short term since the weather is pretty quiet. But if you're going across the Pacific Northwest and the northern tier of the United States, including for Northern California, we're still looking at some active weather today. Showers, maybe a thunderstorm, some high elevation snow if you're in the Cascades. If you're in Idaho and Montana, just keep that in mind. Road travels today could be a little dicey because we have that snow, that weather system moving on by. But there are changes coming that you all need to be aware of, okay? For early next week, especially for Sunday and Monday, as we're keeping an eye on a fairly impressive system that develops. So we're going to forward this all the way into Saturday. So the first phase of this actually gets together over the Midwest and the upper Midwest. And this is for about 6 in the morning on Saturday. This is for December the 9th. And we have those showers and thunderstorms that are anticipated. We also got a little bit of snowfall that is expected over Hudson Bay across Minnesota. If you're in the Dakotas, a little bit of snow is expected. But what you don't see is we have this trough that is going to be digging down further south. And with warm air advection here being pulled in off the Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico, this is going to really set the stage for a very impressive system that we are still concerned about, not like we were looking at maybe like 3 or 4 days ago, as that was going to be a very classic winter storm. Instead, this is more stretched out, if you will, because of a lot of the dynamics are more stretched out. And this is going to be for Sunday early morning. You can see this system right here where there's going to be a lot of rainfall, some flood concerns, and also severe weather. Speaking of that, the Storm Prediction Center for Day 2 has issued a marginal risk for severe thunderstorms across Springfield, Missouri. If you're in Fayetteville in the northwestern corner there of Arkansas, under a marginal risk. Little Rock and Sulphur Springs in Texas, McAllister, if you're in Muskogee in Oklahoma, Fort Smith, you are under a marginal risk for severe weather. This does include the chances here for a tornado or two, maybe at less than 2% chance. The wind threat here, why is it not going to give me anything? All right, just driven mainly by hail, but might get some damaging winds perhaps with some of these storms. We'll have to see with what they do with that for day 2. Day 3 for Saturday into Sunday, that's going to be the more active day that we really got to pay close attention to, especially if you are in Louisiana, if you're in eastern Texas, southern portion there of Arkansas, if you're in central and western Mississippi and southwestern Tennessee, there's a slight risk for severe weather here, and this is not to be taken lightly at all. We could be looking at a more organized threat of severe weather, such as maybe the potential for tornadoes. Some of them don't look to be strong at the moment in many soundings that I've looked at, but still a tornado threat, some large hail, and some very strong winds. We could see wind gusts anywhere between 60 to perhaps 70 miles an hour with some of the storms. So if you're in Monroe, Shreveport, Pine Bluff, Greenville, Memphis, Jackson, if you're in Beaumont, if you are in Houston, please keep an eye on Saturday into Sunday with the SPC already issuing a slight risk. By Sunday afternoon and evening for December the 10th, 2023, this is for about 4 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon, depending on your time zone. This is mainly for Eastern time, so you can see by 7 o'clock when it's dark, it is going to be raining pretty good. We could see bouts of very intense rainfall with some of the more banding along the front, maybe some snow in the higher elevations, more of a wet snow at this point since temperatures are not going to be exceptionally cold, and so a heavy wet snow could really lead to a lot of problems on roadways. Some air traffic could also get impacted, so keep that in mind. Really, really active here for Sunday into Sunday night and even into early Monday morning for your morning commute. Really does not look good at all. In fact, probably one of the worst days to do anything outdoors would be Monday morning if you're going to work. We're talking a lot about snow here over the extreme northeast like Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire. This is a pretty intense storm, and we can see some dark green colors here south of that snow line, an indication we're going to see bouts of pretty intense rainfall with rainfall rates between about a half an inch to maybe 3/4 of an inch an hour. So again, maybe some flood concerns as this pulls through, and I hate saying that because there's just going to be so much rain, and even a little bit of lake effect snow, some convective showers behind this, since there is going to be a little push of cold air in the wake of the weakened storm system. Once that passes on by off to the east, the pattern is going to look more quieter for early next week, especially for Tuesday into Wednesday. We're not talking a lot about anything at all. In fact, there could be a couple of days in here where there's virtually nothing to track at all. So I might take a little hiatus from uploading, maybe a couple of days off. We'll see. Probably not for the sake of things because I enjoy making these videos. But yeah, the whole entire United States map is white, and that means nothing other than maybe some showers. But hey, that's, I mean, very light in nature. Nothing for the Pacific Northwest, nothing for the East. Looking pretty good. So if you want to do anything outdoors for Tuesday and Wednesday next week, please do so. I encourage you all to take the time to breathe the fresh air, barbecue, hang out with your friends, if you will, because the weather pattern is looking gorgeous. By the very end of the forecast period on the Euro model, again, please take this with a grain of salt, folks. We are looking fairly far out in the medium range side of things. We're looking out all the way to December the 16th. So please, if you guys will, I have to do my job and emphasize a lot can change this far out, okay? In fact, if we look at the 0Z run from last night, we can see how there is some subtle changes, but the Euro doing pretty good actually on this system, trying to develop by the second, or I think the second week of December, that is the 16th. Actually, that would be the third week. Yeah, the third week, sorry. Third weekend of December. Wants some snow and maybe another big powerful system, but of course that's too far out and we're not going to worry about it. Only one thing at a time, with more active weather potentially on the doorstep for the Pacific Northwest and California. But again, too far out, 216 hours out, okay? How much rainfall could actually accumulate depending on your geographical location? If it's cold, it's going to be snow. If it's rather mild, not cold enough for snow, it's going to be in the form of rainfall. And so a lot of this along the I-95 corridor, which is the northeast here, is likely to see rain for the time being. I'm not, a little bit of trends to the east in recent runs, but probably not enough for me to say there's going to be snow. But don't be surprised if there's a very wet, wintry mix going on. Maybe a very wet, almost a slushy snow. Really not completely snow, not completely rain, just kind of a rain-snow mix. So you might get as much as 2 inches of rainfall potentially on the ensemble. This is the 06Z run because the ensemble has not began to render yet on the Euro, the 12Z run. And so we're going to be using this. And it does a pretty good job at showing you where it's going to accumulate. And then, of course, anywhere between maybe an inch to maybe an inch and a half of precipitation for the southeast. The Pacific Northwest is going to wrap up its atmospheric rivers over the next couple of days, and so a lot of this precipitation will actually fall within the next 2 to 4 days, and so you can still see some flood concerns there according to this, where you might see as much as 3 to 5 inches of additional precipitation through about December the 8th and the 9th. Therefore, the Weather Prediction Center, or the WPC for short, has issued a risk for flash flooding and heavy rainfall. Especially if you're along that coast there on the 101, the Golden State Highway, the Golden State, or well, hold on, the coastal highway, or there's some name to it. I forgot what it is, but the 101 through Aberdeen, just keep that in mind. Lots of heavy rainfall potentially here that could lead to some flooding, even in Portland. Then, of course, if you go across the deep south and the southeast, there is a marginal risk for flooding, but that's not the only day we see that. Let's go to day 4, shall we? There is a marginal risk, and here it is, folks. Again, with that system that we talked about, there is that risk for flooding because of that storm system as it swings on through. Let's use yellow. So right in here where we are pretty concerned for some bouts of heavy rainfall, enough to cause rises on small creeks, streams, maybe some river flooding, maybe some street flooding. Just keep that in mind, okay? Poor drainage areas. Storm drains could be clogged because of a lot of the leaves that are falling, so keep that in mind. There could be some issues on the roadways. How much snowfall could accumulate over the next 3 to 5 days? Well, this is a look at the latest Euro ensemble forecast. Again, 50 members that run, or 51 members that is, including the control run, kind of render through this, and they kind of estimate the average outcome. And right now, it looks like the Northeast is more than likely going to see about 3 to 5 inches of snow right now. Some of the higher peaks maybe as much as 8 to 10 inches. Probably going to see now under a foot of snowfall. There is a lot of consistency here among the models that there is... there's not going to be a whole lot of accumulation like we were first thinking. There's been some downtrends here, which is at least good for many reasons, okay? Because you've had a lot of snow here over the Great Lakes because the lake affects snow. So this is downtrending a little bit, but still, there's going to be some snow that does accumulate, and it will be wet. We're talking the 10-in-1 ratio, guys, that could lead to some power outages. A lot of snow here over the Intermountain West, including for the Northern Rockies, the Pacific Northwest, like the Cascades. If you're in the Wasatch Front, you could see as much as 3 to 8 inches of snowfall, but the Cascades up here in the northern Idaho as well could see 10 to 15 inches of additional snowfall. Now, the biggest story of all time is going to be these temperatures, okay? Me and Ethan B, if you guys know Ethan B, if you guys are new here, you probably don't. But if you've been here before, you know Ethan B. He is a severe weather specialist, and me and him were actually talking last night, and I mean, I just love his reactions. I really do. And he says, holy moly, oh my gosh. I mean, when you hear Ethan B. actually say that, with these temperatures being this far above average, you know it's serious, okay? And we're going to see that over the next several days. In fact, probably one of the warmest early Decembers on record. We could see some all-time records even being challenged as well, especially if you're in Canada, like just south of Hudson Bay. We could see all-time records for sure to be broken up there because of how warm it's going to be. Yeah, well, warm as far as temperature anomaly standpoint, but still on the chilly side, relatively speaking. So over the next 2 to 3 days, again, this warm weather pattern, I mean, this is this is opposite. I'm telling you, this is opposite of the cold Arctic outbreak that you saw right around Christmas of last year. I know it's not Christmas, but you get the idea. I mean, you should start seeing these cold blasts of air moving in, but because we have an El Nino that is very strong right now, in fact, we're only 1 point away, 0.1 degrees Celsius away from being a super El Nino. And I'm not hyping that up to scare you all, but we are awfully close. I mean, we probably will get there by late December, I think, when this event peaks. And so with a very strong to super El Nino in place, I mean, the impacts are going to be felt. I mean, look at how warm it's going to be. Cooler across the west here, like California, the Four Corners over the next couple of days. And moving forward here, you can see that cold patch of air eventually moving southward into the southeast. So at least Floridians, Georgians, if you're in the Carolina, and if you are in Tennessee, you're going to see temperatures below average, but still, there's no Arctic air mass here being involved. This is more low latitudinal, so it's kind of doing this because of that El Nino, because of the storms that we're going to see. That's going to keep temperatures down, and we're not seeing this. The cold air going from north to south like you would typically find it in December, at least in mid to late December. But look, it's not going to get any better. The deterministic run, if we play this through, I mean, look how warm it's going to be. I mean, no cold air. I mean, some of you in the comment section were saying that, man, this is the first time I have ever seen temperatures that warm, far above average. And I can believe it. I mean, this is really concerning. And when we look at the actual absolute standpoint of temperatures here, I mean, this is really, really warm by Thursday next week. Anywhere between 30 to 50 degrees above normal. I mean, that is concerning, and it's all because of what I'm about to show you here. So your air temperature forecast here is as such. Really warm for Texas today. If you're in Oklahoma, it's going to be a mild day. Kind of the time to take off the jackets, wear the shorts kind of deal, because it's going to be really mild. Even tonight, you're only going to have overnight lows in the upper 50s to lower 60s. More kind of like a springish, summer-like pattern where it's really warm at night. Not much cooler weather at all. And then tomorrow, you're going to see temperatures potentially over here in the 80s, upper 70s to lower 80s for your Friday, December the 8th. So very warm December there. And then, of course, very mild across the deep south and across much of the Great Lakes. I mean, the freezing line is somewhere up in here, okay? And so that's very far north. And over the Rockies, of course, the higher elevations here, you're going to find it in the Intermountain West. But look at this. Phoenix going to be very warm. Not your typical December pattern at all. And then it still is warm for the deep south locations, 70s and 80s likely, with temperatures that are not going to be very cool at all in days to come. Maybe slightly cooler by the time we go into Monday, but still right there above average for mid-December standards. And then going forward here, still looking at some mild temperatures. And then eventually, look at this. Where's the cold air? The case of the missing cold air is how we should look at this. There is nothing like no negatives. The negative temperatures you have to find are like right along the coast there of Hudson Bay. But otherwise, I mean, it is just not going to be winter-like. I'm sorry, folks. I wish I could bring you good news. I'm here for good news. I'm not here for bad news. But unfortunately, today, I'm here for the bad news. And the bad news is it's going to be warmer than average for the extended period. The reason why that is because we have a zonal jet, but we're also going to see a lot of ridging taking place. And when we kind of play this through, there is your disturbance here on the Euro. See this little pinging trough? That's going to move out, and this is going to allow this ridge to actually build northeastward over time. And so the end of the model run, we can see a little bit of a trough here, but take note where the freezing line is. I mean, that is just remarkable. The freezing line, folks, the 540 line is way up here, and it digs very far, not very far south, say into the extreme northeast. In fact, there might be some time in here. Actually, if we go back, actually some portion of the U.S. is going to see the freezing line. But long story short, it's going to be warm. That's all you guys need to be aware of right now. Really warm and quiet for the northern tier because of this ridge. And in fact, if that's not strong enough, let's look at the anomalous. You can see that red on your screen, indication that there's going to be a lot of ridging up here and across the northeast and the northern tier, including for Canada. One quick thing I did want to add on to this video is the Pacific. We're keeping an eye on that jet stream. We're waiting for that subtropical jet and the polar jet to really kick into high gear for the winter season, what we call our winter weather period base state, or the pattern that is, for it to reflect a winter season. And right now it's not doing that, as you all can see. Very ripply jet, of course. It's all chaotic out here in the Pacific, but there are changes coming. Once we get into mid-December, we can see the subtropical jet here finally gets screaming, and then by the end of the period, say like December 22nd, and then eventually the 23rd, we could see a very strong jet stream pick up here. I mean, that's 233 knots. That is almost 280 miles an hour. That is very, very strong. But again, we'll see. The GFS is being the GFS. The only thing we could really look at for more agreement is the ensemble from the Euro. That's basically where we're at the moment to get better agreement. And they're also agreeing that that jet is really going to get extended. It's going to really increase in intensity. And so what that means for the Midwest, really quickly on the ensemble, this is the 0Z from last night, by the way, because again, the ensemble is, the latest one has just started rendering, so it doesn't render that far out. But I can show you all that it is going to remain warm through the next 15 days. If that's not enough, the one-day average really looking warm. In fact, probably warmer than ever before up here. So more of a El Nino pattern actually setting up here, with cooler than normal temperatures, near average across the desert Southwest, near average to below average for the southern tier. So definitely that El Nino really kicking in here according to the latest Euro. And once again, that's not enough for me to say. Let's go and look at the weekly output here. This is what we call the ECMWF extended forecast. This goes really far out in time, and you can see potentially all the way through the rest of December into early January, potentially for the next 34 days, there is not going to be any Arctic outbreaks here at all. And if that's not enough, perhaps all the way through the end of January, we could still see some very warm temperatures up here, well above average for this time of the year, with cooler than normal for the Pacific Northwest and the desert Southwest, with near average here for the deep South. And that's because we're going to have that El Nino pattern really at play here. And we can see that well modeled here on the weeklies, especially right in here for early January. Take note of that jet really extending itself into the west, and that's going to increase ridging downstream over Canada. Woof! That was a lot to talk about, right? I know. I'm excited for the long-term forecast because, yes, the west really needs the rain, and so does the deep south, because we are still below average for this time of the year, especially for Mississippi. My goodness, recent rains have at least taken a little bit of the drought away, but still way below average, more than 4 to 5 inches there. So you really need it, and you could really use the El Nino storms. But you know what I could use is some support on my Sacramento Weather Center office website. I created this website about a week and a half ago, and it's doing really good. A lot of people really like it. I'm getting a lot of visitors. So if you guys want to check this out, there is a link in the description below this video. Again, sacramentoweathercenter.com. If you didn't hear that the first time, sacramentoweathercenter.com. Link in the description below this video. I cover much of the Central Valley, the Sierra foothills, the mountains, including for the Bay Area spots. So if you're a local, be sure to check out the website. But if you're just here for support and you just want to see my blogs for the heck of it, because I'm an awesome weather guy, please do so as well. But just letting you know that I'm not expanding yet to other areas, and I'm going to keep this more local in my area. You can see the About page, the blogging, that's where my website is the most active, where you can check out my post 3 days ago. I'm going to be making another one this afternoon, so if you guys want to check that out too, I will have a community post on that for you all to check out. But you can see here, check this out. I also have links, so if you all want to check out, say, let's just say you wanted to check out Tropical Tidbits. It will take you right to the Tropical Tidbits website. Let's just say you wanted to check out, what's this dynamic fluid simulator, David? You can click that and it will pop up with the link. Also, one other thing is, if you guys want to follow me on my Twitter page, my handle is at WeatherUnited1, so be sure to check that out. There's a link in the description leading to my Twitter page where you can follow me there. If you want to still follow me on Facebook, there's also a link there as well. But yeah, I do a lot of posting as well. I'm very active on Twitter, so if you can't find me on YouTube, which hopefully you did by now, you could find me on Twitter as well. But anyways, you all be sure to share, like, and subscribe. And yeah, I'll be back with more weather content probably tomorrow. I'm going to do a morning upload since I am busy basically the entire day again tomorrow. I'm hoping I'll have time for that. Tomorrow's a chance, but for sure on Saturday, I should have a video out too. But otherwise, share, like, and subscribe, and I'll be back with you more soon.